The wind howled across the barren plains as the sun sank behind the hills, painting the sky in shades of fire and sorrow. John Carter, a quiet rancher in his mid-40s, leaned against the worn wooden fence of his land, his weathered hands clutching a mug of black coffee gone cold. The ranch was silent except for the restless rustling of cattle in the distance. It had been silent for years now, ever since his wife, Clara, passed away. He had grown used to that silence, until that night, when a knock on his door changed everything. When he opened the door, the rain poured down in silver sheets, and standing there was a young woman in a soaked, tattered dress. Her hair clung to her pale face, her eyes full of fear and desperation. "Please," she whispered, her voice trembling, "I have nowhere else to go." Job hesitated, his instincts warning him to be careful, but something about here, perhaps the way her voice cracked when she spoke, melted the frost around his heart. He stepped aside. "Come in, miss." Her name was Evelyn Grace, and she explained in shivering breaths that she had come west to marry a man she'd never met, a mail-order bride promised to a farmer named Mr. Donovan. But when she arrived, she discovered the man had died weeks before. His family had run her off, leaving her stranded in the middle of nowhere. She had been walking for hours before she saw the faint light from John's cabin. John didn't know what to say. He wasn't used to company, much less a woman sitting by his fire. She looked fragile but proud, trying to hide her trembling hands as she warmed herself. He made her some soup, and for a while, the only sound was the crackling of the fire. "You can stay here tonight," he finally said, his voice rough from disuse. "But it's no palace." Evelyn smiled faintly. "I've had worse." That night, as the storm raged outside, Evelyn couldn't sleep. She kept thinking of the man who had shown her kindness with no reason to. From the other room, she heard John's boots creak as he stoked the fire again, making sure she stayed warm. It had been years since anyone had done something like that for her. She whispered into the dark, "Thank you," though she knew he couldn't hear. Morning came softer and golden. John found her in the barn, feeding the horses as if she had always belonged there. "You don't have to do that," he said. "I wanted to," she replied, smiling. "It's peaceful here." Something stirred in him, a feeling he thought he'd buried with Clara. For the first time in years, the ranch didn't feel empty. Days passed. One night became 2, then 3. Evelyn offered to cook, to help with chores, insisting she'd leave as soon as she found work. But each evening, John found himself hoping she wouldn't. They shared stories over supper, hers of growing up in a crowded city, his of losing everything but his land. Laughter began to echo through the cabin again, but peace never lasts long on the frontier. One afternoon, a group of men rode up to the ranch. Donovan's kin. They claimed Evelyn had stolen jewelry from the widow's home and demanded John hand her over. She stood frozen, tears filling her eyes. "I didn't take anything," she pleaded. John looked at her, and for a moment, he saw the truth in her eyes, the same honesty that had shown that first rainy night. He stepped forward, his voice low but firm. "She's under my roof, and I won't let you take her." A tense silence hung in the air. The man glared, but John's stance didn't waver. They finally turned and left, muttering curses as they rode away. When they were gone, Evelyn broke down, sobbing into her hands. "You shouldn't have done that," she cried. "They'll come back." John placed a hand on her shoulder. "Let them. You don't turn your back on someone who's done you no harm." That night, Evelyn confessed the truth. She had come west to start over after escaping a cruel engagement in the city. She wasn't just running from poverty, but from fear. John listened quietly, then said, "You don't owe me an explanation, but if you want to stay, this ranch could use another hand." And she stayed. Weeks turned into months. Together, they mended fences, tended cattle, and rebuilt parts of the ranch that had long been forgotten. The silence that once haunted the place was replaced by music, Evelyn's gentle humming, the soft rhythm of boots on wooden floors, the sound of shared laughter. Somewhere along the way, John realized he was no longer lonely, and Evelyn realized she had found the home she'd always been searching for. One evening, as the sun dipped below the hills, Evelyn looked out at the land bathed in gold and whispered, "I thought I had nowhere else to go." John, standing beside her, smiled. "Sometimes," he said, "you don't find a place here, you find a person." Years later, travelers passing through would speak of the Carter Ranch, where a kind rancher and a woman with a mysterious past built a life together out of mercy, courage, and love. The wind still blew across the plains, but it no longer sounded lonely. It carried the laughter of two souls who had found each other when they needed it most. And it all began with one knock at the door, and 5 trembling words, "I have nowhere else to go."